Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make a really easy dog sweater. So this dog sweater is my favorite design for a dog sweater because there are no buttons, there are no zippers, there are no bits of Velcro, nothing to sew. It's all worked flat. The ties are created with the crochet. It has a cute little ribbed collar, and I even added a hole for the harness to go through so that we can wear this outside when it gets cold when I take Toby on his walks. So if you want to learn how to make a very simple dog sweater, and don't worry, I do show you how to size up or size down throughout the tutorial. If you're interested in making a dog sweater like this, keep watching. Let's talk about what we're going to need for this project. First, we're going to need a crochet hook. I'll be using a 4mm hook today. You're also going to need some yarn. I'm going to be using a mixture of different colors in acrylic. These are all somewhere between a number 3 and a number 4 weight yarn. I've picked some autumn colors that I think will look great on Toby. You're also going to need some scissors, as well as a yarn needle to weave in your ends and to stitch part of the project together. We may also need stitch markers, but I don't know yet. And last but not least, you're going to need something to measure your dog. I'm going to be doing a dog sweater for a 4.5-pound Chihuahua, but I'll show you where you can increase or decrease the size if your dog is larger or smaller. I will be measuring Toby periodically throughout the project to make sure it fits him. So gather your supplies and let's jump in. All right, here's Mr. Toby. He looks big because he's taking up the whole screen, but I promise he's a little fella. All right, so now let's measure your neck, because that's our first. Can you sit? Good boy, Toby. Look at this pretty man. Hi, buddy. Okay, so first we're gonna measure around your neck. I can put my whole 4 fingers in with the measuring tape, and that measurement is 9 inches. If I were to just make it the exact measurement of the little fella's neck, we'd be a lot closer to 6 inches. So I'm giving, I would say, measure the accurate length around your dog's neck and add 3 inches. So for Mr. Tobias here, that's going to be a 9-inch length for the collar. And then the height of the collar, I'm probably gonna go about 2 inches. Whoa, but you can make that longer if you've got a dog with a longer neck. If you can see here, Toby's got a nice long neck. I'm gonna just measure from between the shoulders up to between the ears. That's the length of the neck. For Toby, that's about 3 inches. I'm probably gonna make the neck about 2 inches. The next length we're going to have is from between the shoulders to the base of the tail. That's the full length of the sweater. And for Toby, that's gonna be 10 inches. And then we need around the largest part of their chest or waist. As you can see on Toby, he's got a big wide barrel chest and then a teeny tiny little waist. So his teeny tiny little waist, it's 8 inches. And then his rib cage at the widest point, good boy, Tobe, right around 12, 13 inches. So 12, 13 inches is what I'm going to be increasing on the sweater, where I'll show you how we're going to work it. So with those measurements, we'll be able to figure out how big we need to make the sort of tube section of the sweater, how long we need to make the sweater, and how big we need to make the neckline so that it fits our little dogs. So now I'm done with you, Toby. You can go lie down again. What a good boy you are, Tobe. Oh, you're such a good boy. Let's make you a sweater, huh? Let's do it. You're so handsome. Good boy. So to get started, I am going to begin with a slip knot. I'm gonna leave a little bit of a longer tail at the beginning because I'm gonna use the tail to sew the collar together in the end. I'm gonna start with my brown yarn. I'm gonna do a slip knot, and then I am going to chain 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. This row is going to be the height of the collar of the sweater. So Toby's got a big long neck, so I want to give him a big long collar. This is going to be the rib stitch of our collar. This row is going to be worked out until it is long enough to make it all the way around the neck. So right now the row is about 2 inches long, and we are going to crochet until we have 9 inches of length. I'm going to start with single crochets. In the second chain from the hook, I'll insert my hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. Into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both. Into the next. At the end of this first row, there should be 10 stitches in the row. Our 11th chain stitch acts as a turning chain, so we don't actually count that in our final row. Here I am coming up to the end of that first row. I'll put my second last single crochet in, and here is my last one, number 10. And now at the end of the row, I'm going to chain 1 and turn the work. Now, the first stitch of the row here, I'm going to work a single crochet normally for row number 2. So I'm going to put my hook into the stitch as normal. Both loops are on the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2. Now for the remainder of this row, the following 9 stitches, we're going to work in the back loop only. Normally we would put our hook like this, and we would end up with 2 loops of yarn on the hook, the front loop and the back loop. Instead, we're going to turn our work up so we can see the top of the stitches like this, and then I'm going to insert the hook into the back, just the back loop of the stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So it's called a single crochet, back loops only. For the rest of the row, I'm going to single crochet in the back loops only. I'll meet you at the end of row number 2 to show you how we will finish off this row. Here I am at the end of the row. I have 1 single crochet left in the row. In the last stitch, back loops only, single crochet. And then I'm going to chain 1 and turn. If you remember, we started the previous row with a single crochet through both loops. At the end of this row, we did a single crochet through the back loop only. So now at the beginning of this row, we're going to start with a single crochet in the back loop only again. And we're going to single crochet in the back loops only in every single stitch across, except when we get to the last stitch of this row. For the last stitch of row number 3, we're going to do a single crochet through both loops, a normal single crochet. Here I am at the end of row number 3. I'll put my last single crochet in the back loops only, and now there's 1 stitch remaining. I'm going to put both loops on the hook. I'm going to single crochet normally for the last stitch of the row, just like that, and then chain 1 and turn. So for all of the even rows, we start our stitches with a regular single crochet, otherwise single crochet back loops only. For all of the odd rows, we're going to single crochet back loops only, except for the last stitch of the row, which will be a regular single crochet. Those back loop only single crochets creates this ribbed pattern. You can see it kind of goes in a zigzag, and it creates a little more stretch than just a regular single crochet row. By doing the single crochet through both loops on one side of the work, we're keeping the row straight on one side and then ribbed on the other side. We're going to follow that same pattern all the way until we have enough rows to get around Toby's neck. So for all of the even rows, you will start with a single crochet regularly through the first stitch, followed by 9 single crochets in the back loops only. For every odd row, you will do 9 single crochets in the back loops only, with a final stitch of the row single crochet normally. If you're having a hard time remembering where to put the regular single crochet will always be on the same side as the tail of yarn. The side that the tail is on, that's where your single crochet normal is going to be. All right, I've just come up to the end of my 41st row. So I did 41 rows in order to get my 9 inches, and that is going to fit around my dog's neck perfectly. And you can see now how doing the 2 different edges has created one straight edge and one sort of ribbed edge. If you look at it from this side, do you see how it's all zigzaggy and ribbed? But if we look at it from the other side, where we just did our single crochet through both loops, it's straight. So this side is going to be the side that attaches to the rest of the sweater, and this sort of ruffled edge is going to be the outer edge of the collar of the sweater. Now what we're going to be doing is attaching our yarn a few rows in at either side, and then we're going to work out back and forth this way, increasing for the shoulder section. If you fold this in half, you can imagine this is where the neck is. We now need to work out the back and increase out to cover the shoulder of the dog. Let's first secure off the yarn here. I'm going to cut my yarn at the last stitch and pull it through because I am going to switch colors now. So first, I'm going to use a couple of stitch markers, and I'm going to count in from both sides the same number of stitches. So 2, 4, 6. I think 6 is going to be a good spot for where I'm going to connect my yarn. So that is where I'm going to put my first stitch marker. And now I'm going to do the same thing from the other side. 2, 4, 6. And there we go. This is going to be our new row. And we are going to be working on the side that has the single crochet through both loops, not the side that has single crochet back loops only. Let me zoom you in for connecting. So the stitch where the stitch marker is coming out, I'm going to insert my hook into that spot, and I'm going to work in the yellow yarn now. So I'll yarn over with my new color and pull a loop through. And then with the working end, I will chain 1. And now I'm going to single crochet in the same stitch that chain 1 is coming out of. So I'm going to insert the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. In the first stitch of each row, every available space to put my hook, essentially, I'm going to put a single crochet. So I'm going to put one right here. Now, first stitch of the next row, single crochet, and I'm single crocheting over the tail as well. And I am going to single crochet like this one time in each of the stitches all the way across until I hit the second stitch marker. All right, here I am coming up to the second stitch marker. I'm gonna put my last single crochet into that stitch that the stitch marker is coming out of, and then I'm gonna chain 1 and turn. This is going to be so cute. I already love how these colors are looking together. All right, now what we're going to do in the first stitch and the last stitch of this row, I'm going to put 2 single crochets in those stitches. Otherwise, I'm gonna just put 1 single crochet in each stitch across. So first stitch, I'm gonna do a single crochet, and then I'm going to put a second one into that stitch. That's going to create an increase. Otherwise, I'm gonna single crochet normally, 1 time in each stitch across, and at the end of the row, I'm gonna put 2 single crochets in the last stitch. I'll meet you at the end of the row. Here I am at the end of that row. I'm gonna put 2 single crochets in this last stitch. Then I'll chain 1 and turn. Now you can see how that 2 single crochets has increased the length of our row just a little bit. And we need to increase the length of the row to get it basically back to the width of the collar and then some. Because right now, this rectangle, this new row, we need to have it continue increasing out until it is long enough to get around the widest point of your dog's chest. If you'll remember, we measured around Toby's chest at the widest point and it was close to 12 or 13 inches. So this rectangle, I need to keep doing these 2 single crochets in the first and last stitch until it measures about 12 or 13 inches. And I want to create enough length on the back that increase kind of wraps around his body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an increase every other row. I think that should give me like the right amount of taper. If you had a dog, for example, that was a really short bodied dog, like a English bulldog, let's say, you might want to increase every single row because that's gonna create that wider sort of shoulder shape for a dog. Or if you've got a really narrow dog, like let's say a greyhound, you might need to work in a less aggressive increase, something more like this. I'm gonna be doing something in between. Toby's got a very large chest, a small neck, and a small waist, so I'm going to be increasing every other row with my single crochets. So what that means is for this next row, I'm just going to single crochet 1 time in each stitch across. So row number 1 was single crochet across. Row number 2 had 2 in the first stitch, 2 in the last stitch. Row number 3 is going to be single crochet across, and then row number 4 is going to be increase, 2 in the first stitch, 2 in the last stitch. I'll meet you at the end of row number 4 to show you what it's looking like and what we're going to do next. Here's what it's looking like as I come up to the end of row number 4. So I'll do my last single crochet, and then I've got 1 last stitch here. I'm going to put 2 single crochets into that last stitch, and then we're going to have a little talk here. So the next step is going to be to add a hole in the next row. So Toby wears a harness, not a like leash around his neck. So for him, I need to have a hole in the sweater for the harness buckle to sort of come out. And if this is going to be around his neck, this is going to be kind of over his shoulders. The harness should, I think, if his legs are like here, then the harness should be coming out around this point. So I need to mark the middle of the row. So I'm just going to count from both sides until I hit the middle. All right, so these 2 stitches are the middle. I'm going to take another stitch marker and mark it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to single crochet across to that stitch marker. When I hit that stitch marker, what am I going to do? So what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to create an eyelet. So this is the center. I'm going to count out a couple from the center on each side. So 1, 2, and then we'll count out on the other side, 1, 2, right there. This is going to be the size of that eyelet. So to do that, I'm going to single crochet to the first stitch marker. So for me, that's 15 stitches in. I just did 14, and now the one with the stitch marker will be my 15th stitch. And now the space between the stitch markers is 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches long. So I'm going to chain, I think I'll chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what, let's do 6. I just don't want there to be too much pull here. 6 good. You know what, I'm gonna do 7, just working it out on the fly. All right, now I'm going to single crochet into the stitch with the stitch marker, the next stitch marker that is, and I'm going to single crochet across the rest of the row. Here I am at the end of that 5th row. I'm gonna chain 1 and turn. And now you can see where we have that long chain, that's going to be an open hole after we're crocheting this sweater. So I'm going to take these stitch markers out because I don't need them. If your dog does not have a harness and does not need a hole in the sweater, then don't add one. So now for row number 6, I'm going to start with 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 and 2, and then I'm going to single crochet up until the point where that chain starts. And I'll meet you at the start of that chain 7 to show you what we're gonna do there. All right, here I am at that chain 7. So I'll put my last single crochet into that single crochet there. And now into this chain 7, there's actually 4 stitches below it, right? We skipped 4 stitches. So I'm going to single crochet into this chain 7, but I'm gonna single crochet 5 times. So 4 times for the 4 stitches that are below it, and then 1 just for a little bit of extra growth on the row. If you want it to just work straight across, just add 4. But I'm gonna add 5 because I think it's gonna work better for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all underneath that chain. Now I'll single crochet into the single crochet on the other side of the chain, and I will single crochet across the rest of the row. At the end of this row, I'm gonna put 2 single crochets in the last stitch of the row, then I'll chain 1 and turn. Here I am at the end of the row. I'll do my 2 single crochets in the last stitch of the row, 1 and 2, chain 1 and turn. Now let's have a look. Now the hole for the harness is nice and clean. It has nice finished edges, and it is large enough to actually let that buckle fit through. Now when we fold over the work, you can kind of see how that growth is starting to show up. Here is the collar, and now this space is going to be the space where the front legs will be able to sort of sit. So we're going to continue our increase out for a little while yet, because at this point the sweater only measures just about 10 inches and we need to get it to 12 or 13 inches. For Toby, that is. So should we change colors again? Maybe we should change colors. How many have we done? 2, 4, 6. I changed my mind. I'm gonna do another 2 rows before I change colors. So for row number 7, I am going to single crochet across. Then for row number 8, I'm going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 2 single crochets in the last stitch, otherwise single crochet across. After that, I am going to change colors. So I will meet you back here at the end of row number 8 to show you how I'm going to change colors and what we're going to do next for this cute little dog sweater. All right, here I am at the end of row number 8, and here is where I'm going to be switching colors. So for the last stitch of the row, I'm going to do a single crochet, and now I have to do a second single crochet in here. I'm going to cut my yarn. I'm gonna grab my new yarn and get it ready. Then I'm gonna insert the hook into the stitch, yarn over with my old yarn, pull up a loop. Then I'm going to use the new yarn for that last yarn over. So yarn over and pull through both loops. I'm gonna do that with the new color. Then I'll drop the tail ends, and then I can chain 1 and turn. And now I'm going to do a single crochet across row with the new color. I'm going to crochet over my ends so that I don't have to weave in anything, but I'm gonna do my best to keep them hidden by putting them just right on top of the row, like that. And then I'll single crochet across for row number 9. Here I am at the end of row number 9. I'll put my last single crochet in, chain 1 and turn. And now for row number 10, I'm going to start with 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and I'm going to put 2 single crochets in the last stitch. Otherwise, I am going to single crochet 1 time in each stitch across. So from this point, we are going to continue with this increase, doing 1 row where we single crochet across, 1 row where we single crochet across, except in the first and last stitch where we do 2 single crochets in each of those stitches. So for the next few rows, I'm going to follow that same increase repetition that I'm doing here, row number 9 and row number 10. The even rows, I will put 2 single crochets in the first stitch and 2 single crochets in the last stitch. The odd rows, I'll just do 1 single crochet in each stitch across. I'm gonna do that until my row measures 13 inches, which is the measurement around the widest point of my dog. You continue doing your increases until this measurement is the same as the widest point around your dog's chest. All right, after 6 rows of the dark gray, I've decided I want to switch back into the golden yellow color, so I'll do the color switch one more time. I have my second last single crochet of the row done, and now for the last single crochet, I'll insert the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, then I'm going to yarn over with the new yarn and pull through those 2 loops. Then with the new yarn, I will do the chain 1 and turn. And now this next row will be a row of single crochets. Let me just zip through this row and then we will measure and see where we are at. All right, here I am at the end of that golden row. And now I'm gonna just measure out that row. We're just over 12 inches. Right now we're at 12 and a half after I finish the end of this row. I think that's all the increase I wanna go with for Toby. And now I think what I'm gonna do is create the ties that are gonna crisscross under his body and tie on the other side. So let's do that. I'm gonna do the last single crochet here. We did 8 rows where we did increases every other row. Then we did 6 more rows, increases every other row, but with a new color. And we've just switched colors and done 1 row of single crochets. Now we're going to make the tie. So for the tie, we're going to create a really long chain, like really long, like 100 probably, maybe 80. Let's start with 80 and see how that looks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, and 80. There we go. Yeah, that's totally gonna be long enough. This tie needs to be long enough that it crosses underneath the body of your dog up to the other side, and then it still needs to be long enough to tie like a bow with one other piece of fabric. So this is actually might be a little bit overkill for Toby because he's pretty small, but I think I'd rather have a little too much than not enough. I can make a cute little bow if it's too long. So now what we're gonna do is single crochet down the chain. 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way down the chain. And I'll meet you once we get back to the body of the work to show you how we're going to connect it back in to what we're working on. All right, here I am coming up back to the main body of the work. And I measured out that tie and it's 1.5 times the length of this chest portion. So however long you made your row before we started the tie, make your tie 1.5 times longer than that. It's the best I can think of for how to make it consistent across dogs. All right, now I'm going to connect this back to the work, put my last single crochet in there, and I'm just gonna connect it by doing a single crochet into that last single crochet we put in the row, just like that. And now look, those single crochets across the chain stitch connect to that row of single crochets. And now I can just crochet across the row. At the end of this row, I'm gonna do the same thing that I did for the last one. I'm gonna chain 80, then I'm gonna single crochet down that chain row all the way back to the body of the work. So I'm gonna zoom through the other side because it's the same thing, I'm just repeating it. And then I'll meet you once I'm back down at the body of the work to show you what we're gonna do next to shape the dog sweater. All right, I made it back down to the main body of the work from the second body strap. And now I'm just gonna do the same thing I did last time. I'll single crochet to connect the row. And now I'm going to single crochet across here, but I'm going to stop where that last stitch becomes the strap. So I'm going to just stitch marker that spot so I know not to go past that point. And then I'm going to single crochet right across to that stitch marker. At the same point, I'm just gonna mark my last stitch on the other side here so that I know where to stop when I'm turning the other way. I'll meet you at the end of this row to show you what I'm gonna do next. All right, here I am coming up to that stitch marker with my single crochets, and I'll just put my last single crochet into the stitch with the stitch marker. I'll take the stitch marker out, put my last single crochet in there, and then chain one and turn. And now you can see how that strap just comes out of the dog sweater. How this is gonna work, if I can just fold it over. So this is where your dog's head is. There's the neck. This space is where the front legs will go. Then we've got these straps, which will cross underneath your dog's tummy, and then they'll come up at the top where you'll be able to tie them into a nice little bow like that. And now we need to continue out with the body and then begin tapering it up so that it goes over the back leg to the tail. So let's do that next. So right now there are 4 rows of yellow. I'm gonna change colors back to the gray after I've got 8 rows. I'm gonna do 8 rows of yellow, 6 rows of gray, 8 rows of yellow. So right now we're gonna start by single crocheting into the first stitch and then single crocheting across. I'm gonna stop at the next stitch marker, and when I hit the stitch marker, I'll single crochet, chain one, and turn. Here I am at the next stitch marker. So at the stitch marker, I'm gonna pull it out, and then I'll do my last single crochet, then I'll chain one and turn. Now for the rest of the rows of yellow, I'm just gonna single crochet across. So right now I'm on row number 5, so now I'm on row number 6. So for rows 6, 7, and 8 in the yellow color, I'm just going to single crochet across, no increases, no decreases, nothing, just plain single crochets. I'll meet you at the end of my 8th row where we're going to switch into the gray, and then we're going to begin doing our decreases. All right, I've made it up to the end of my 8th row in the gold color. This section of the sweater is basically the tummy. This is like the widest part of your dog. And now we're going to start decreasing so that we can have the back legs sort of become exposed so that it's just gonna look cute. It's gonna be a perfect dog sweater, all right? So we're gonna switch colors again back to the gray. So I'll cut my yarn here. For my last single crochet of the row, I will insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. Then with the gray yarn, I will yarn over, pull through both loops. And then with my new yarn, I will chain one and turn. Now we're gonna do our first row with a decrease. So let me zoom you in to show you how we're gonna do it. A decrease is also, in our situation, going to be a single crochet 2 together. Let me show you how that is done. We are going to insert into the first stitch with our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. Normally, we would yarn over and pull through both loops. We're not gonna do that. What we're gonna do instead is insert into the second stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. Now there are 3 loops on the hook and 2 stitches on the hook. You see, there's the first and there's the second. We're gonna yarn over and pull through all 3. That is single crochet 2 together. 2 stitches in the orange row have now become 1 stitch in the gray row. Now I'm going to single crochet across. I will meet you back though when we are at the last 2 stitches of the row because we have to do another single crochet 2 together. So I'll zoom through these regular single crochets and I'll meet you at the end of the row. Here I am at the end of that row. I've got 2 stitches left in my row. So I'm going to do single crochet 2 together. Insert into the first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. Insert into the second stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. 3 loops are on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Single crochet 2 together. Then chain 1 and turn. For the next row, we're just going to single crochet 1 time in each stitch across. This is essentially the reverse of what we did for all of those increases. We're gonna do 1 row where we single crochet across, 1 row where we decrease at the beginning and end of the row. 1 row single crochet across, 1 row with decreases at the beginning and end of the row. I'm gonna zoom through this single crochet row and I'll meet you at the end to show you how we are going to move into our next decrease. Here I am at the end of the row. I'll do my last single crochet, chain 1 and turn. And now for this next row, we're gonna do another row with decreases. So for the first stitch of the row, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. Then single crochet across, but for the last 2 stitches, single crochet 2 together. Now I'm gonna keep repeating this decrease. After 6 rows in the gray, I'm gonna switch back to the gold and I'm gonna do 8 rows of the gold, continuing this decrease where I do single crochet 2 together for the first and last stitches of the row, alternating that with a regular row of single crochets. So I'm gonna zoom through a few rows of that. I'm just gonna continue the decrease, nothing special, nothing fancy, and I'll meet you down once I've got quite a few more rows of decrease done to show you what it's looking like and what it actually is gonna work like. Look at how cute this is coming along. So this is what it looks like folded over. I'm gonna go through the rows with you here. So first, for the back, we did 8 rows with an increase. So we did every other row with an increase. Then we switched color to gray. We did 6 rows with increases every other row with the gray. Then we switched back to the gold. We added those straps by doing a chain 80 on each side and then single crocheting back. Then we did 8 rows total of the gold, just straight across with no increases. Then we switched to the gray and we started doing decreases, which is single crochet 2 together for the first and last stitch of every other row. And then after we did our 6 rows of gray, we did 8 rows of the gold, and then I switched back to the brown that we did the collar with, and we did an additional 8 rows in the brown. So at this moment, the full length of our sweater is 11.5 inches. At the widest point, it is 12 inches, and at the start of the body piece where the neck meets the body, it's 8 inches, and the collar itself is 9 inches. So at this point, I'm pretty sure this is gonna be the right size for Toby, but I do wanna do a border around the whole thing just to make it feel a little bit more finished. I also feel like this looks like a bumblebee. Alex came in and said, "Are you making him a Halloween costume? Is he being a pumpkin or a bumblebee?" when he looked at the colors of the yarn. So I guess that kind of inspired me. So I'll finish off this 8th row with my single crochet 2 together. Then I'm going to cut my yarn here and yarn over, pull through for the last stitch of the row. Now, I am going to sew the collar together first. That's going to be our first step. After we sew the collar together, then we're going to do a border where we crochet all along all of the raw edges, including the underside of the collar. We won't crochet around this side because this side is nice and stretchy and cute, but first, let's sew together the collar itself. All right, so first things first, I'm going to thread up my yarn needle with the tail from the collar. Remember at the beginning I said leave a long tail? Here is when we're going to use it. So where that tail is coming out of is the first stitch. We're going to attach by going through the first stitch on the opposite side to connect our collar together, just like that. Then I'm going to come underneath the second stitch with the needle and come up through the work. Then I'm going to come up underneath the second stitch on the opposite side. This is kind of a mattress stitch. So then I'm going to come bottom underneath the stitch. I'm coming from bottom to top through the stitch and pulling it closed. And then from bottom to top, I'm coming under the stitch and then coming up through the stitch and pulling the yarn tight. And it's kind of just like walking up a ladder, one stitch after another, the exact same stitch. You can do a blanket stitch, you can single crochet this together, but I find this to be such an easy way to close up this seam, and it's really secure and it's super invisible, which is awesome. So I'm just going to finish up this seam here, and when I get to the top, I'm gonna weave in the end, and then our collar will be put together. All right, with the collar seam done, you can actually try this on your dog. So let's see how it looks on Toby at this point. Okay, Tobe, let's see how it fits, huh? It's not finished, so don't give me your final review yet. Your head goes in there. There you go. Oh, that fits so nice. And then see the little ties? We'll just crisscross them. You look just like a bumblebee. What a handsome bumblebee. Look at that. Look at this handsome little bumblebee. Oh, it fits so good. And we can roll that collar down a little bit if you don't want it to be so thick. What do you think? You like it? Oh, that's a waggy tail. Hi, buddy. Do you like your new sweater? So this is also a good time to check for length. You happy, guy? You can see here's the base of his tail. So we could keep going a little bit, but I think I like it shorter. It's gonna keep it from getting any mess on it when we're out in the rain and in the muck of fall. That's what this is, huh? It's your fall sweater. Are you a happy guy? Oh, I'm happy that you're happy. Good boy. All right, now that we know that it fits, I want to do a little border around the whole outside of the work, just so that it looks a little more finished. So I'm just gonna pick up a stitch in the collar. I'm gonna yarn over with the gray yarn and pull a loop through, and then I'm gonna chain one. I'll drop that tail, and then in the same stitch that came out of, I'm gonna do a single crochet. Now I'm just going to single crochet one time in each stitch, or one time in the side of the stitch if I'm doing it across a row like I am here. You can see it's going in a stitch, but it's not really going in like the top of a stitch like a normal row. Same thing here, I'm gonna work down the side of the row, but for every row of single crochet, I should have a single crochet at the front of that row for this border. And I'm gonna keep these single crochets nice and tight so that they kind of cinch in the whole project. And I'm going to go around everything as far as this takes me. So what that means is I'm going to go down this edge, then I'm going to crochet all the way around the strap. Then I'm going to go down this edge, all the way down this edge, across the bottom, and all the way around the other side until I make it back to where I started the round. I'm basically just putting a stitch everywhere that it fits, trying to keep it nicely, evenly distributed around this round that I'm creating, and remembering to keep the stitches nice and tight so that they look even and really pretty and finished. I'm gonna just zoom through this because it's gonna take a while. I'm just single crocheting around, and I'll meet you when I'm coming up to the end of the round to show you what it's looking like. All right, that took what seemed like forever, but I've made it around my single crochet round with the dark gray yarn, and it made it look so nice. It is looking really good, really close to finished, but I've decided I'm gonna go around one more time. This time I'm going to slip stitch around. So I'm going to join this round of single crochets by slip stitching that first single crochet to my last one here, and then I'm not gonna chain one. I'm just gonna start slip stitching around. I'm gonna slip stitch one time into each of the single crochets. It's gonna take a while, but I'm just gonna slip stitch around, and that slip stitch is going to create a really nice finished edge on the outside of the sweater that will make it look just that much more pretty and more complete. So I'm gonna zoom through these slip stitches because they're gonna take me a while, and I will meet you at the beginning of the round to show you what it's looking like. All right, so I'm just coming up to the end of my slip stitch round, and it looks so cute. It added such a good little detail. A few more stitches here. And then to finish the round, I'll just put one final slip stitch in the first stitch that we did, and then I will cut my yarn here, pull that last stitch through, and weave in the end. Look at how cute this is. I think the slip stitches did a number on this thing. It made it so much more thick, and I feel like it made it look, I don't know, just more finished, more professional. I feel like it gave this really clean outline, and if you look at it up close, those slip stitches almost look like a braided detail around the edge of the work. It's so cute. Oh my gosh, he's gonna look so freaking cute in this. Okay, so before we jump into the outro, let's talk about what we did here one more time, an overview of how we got this done. So we started with a short row of 11 chains, and then we single crocheted back loops only across, except on one side we kept it single crochet through both loops. We made that rectangle long enough to reach all the way around the dog's neck. Then we started with a new color, and attaching about an inch or an inch and a half in from one side, we crocheted across until we were about an inch, inch and a half from the other side. Then we worked that rectangle flat with an increase until we got to around the widest point of Toby. Then we added these long straps that are single crochet rows. Then we worked out a few rows straight. In this situation, we only had to do this to a certain size because Toby is so small. If you were making this for a larger dog, you'd continue your increase, and then you would work out straight for their belly, same way you do for this, just bigger. And then you would start decreasing. You may not need to decrease quite so far. It's totally customizable. This is just for the Chihuahua size. We decreased every other row, switching colors occasionally we did a yellow, gray, yellow, gray, yellow, and then I switched back to the collar color to do the final few rows of decrease. Then we did that slip stitch round after we did a single crochet round in the gray. How cute does that look? I love the way those straps turned out. Look how thick they are. So pretty. So how this is gonna work, it'll go over your dog's head, then you crisscross the straps underneath their tummy like that, and then you can tie a nice little bow just over top, and it looks super cute when they're walking around with a little bow. Now, let me show you how Mr. Toby looks in it. Ta-da! What do you think? Is this not the cutest thing? I know it's a basic dog sweater, but I think that it is an awesome staple to have. If you've got a little dog like I do, he's gonna be cold as soon as I start to feel cold. It's very easy to feel chilly when you're 4.5 pounds, so adding a little bit of a sweater in for the fall weather is going to be perfect for him, and I think these colors really speak to that fall vibe. I think he looks really cute in it, and I think he's also going to just love it because he loves being warm and cozy. But what do you think? Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and if you liked this video, leave a like, thumbs up the video. It really helps the channel grow, and I'd really appreciate it. All right, friends, let me throw it to the outro. And well, friends, that's it. The easiest little dog sweater. This pattern is my go-to for dog sweaters because it's so easy to modify for whatever size dog you've got. You just have to make a collar, and then you work out from the collar to get over the shoulders of your dog. You can see Toby is totally comfortable in his new dog sweater. And doesn't he look handsome? Anyways, friends, thank you so much for watching. That's all I've got for you today. Don't forget to click the thumbs up button. Also, if you're new, subscribe. I put out new videos every week. Also, I live stream Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. So if you like to make things and you like to chat about making things, come to one of our live streams in the morning. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. Eastern time. Okay. I am boring Toby. He's falling asleep behind me. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Bye!